Hey guys, how's it going? So today I'm going to be explaining how to become a godlike nurse and just kind of run over just some tips and tricks on how to become a better nurse and just use different strategy and just kind of just explain what it takes to be a good nurse and just all that good stuff. I got 7 tips here that are going to help you. They're going to be very helpful, and hopefully you guys will take those 7 tips and just go out there and just dominate as the nurse. But with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into tip number 1. So our first tip is learning how to blink and use it effectively. Now, the best way to get better at blinking is honestly just to blink. Now, I know that sounds a little silly, and you know what, though, it's the truth. The reason why it's important is because you will learn pretty much how far you can go whenever you charge up your blink and whatnot, and you will be able to tell what objects you can go through. That's going to be very helpful. Then the last thing I just kind of want to cover on why understanding your blink is important is because you are extremely slow. And really, honestly, blinking is going to be the only thing. That's the only way you're going to be able to catch up to survivors. You're extremely slow once again. Literally, they can outrun you. Unless you get some bloodlust, you're really not going to be doing much. So just learn to blink. Just constantly practice. That's the best way to get better, especially if you're having trouble, knowing the distance or knowing what you can, teleport through. It's also going to help with that. And also on top of it, that's how you're going to gain ground on survivors. So with that out of the way, let's go on to tip number 2, which is add-ons. The next thing I want to talk about is the add-ons for the nurse. So in all honesty, she is really the only killer that does not require any add-ons. In fact, you can go pretty much the whole time without playing any add-ons with her whatsoever. In fact, most of her add-ons hurt her and make her much more difficult to use. Most of her add-ons have huge drawbacks and honestly do a lot more harm than good. Now, if you are completely brand new with the nurse and you've never played the nurse or you've played very little with her, I would strongly suggest you use no add-ons. The only reason why is because any muscle memory you have, you are going to lose it really quickly. Because it's just going to be, you're going to learn one thing, and then once you start adding add-ons to the mix, it just kind of goes downhill, and then you forget how far she can go, how many times she can blink, and all that. Now, I will say though, if you have played a little bit of the nurse and you got her down pat, if you're going to use any add-ons, use all the brown add-ons because almost all of them, if not all, have no drawback whatsoever. And really the only other add-on that you should use is called Fragile Wheeze, which will give her an extra chain blink. So instead of having 2 chain blinks, you will now have 3. And it just makes sense just to play her with no add-ons, especially, like I said, if you've never played her before. But with the add-ons out of the way, let's go ahead and go to tip number 3. Alright, so the third tip that I want to talk about is knowing when to blink. Now, I know I covered this a little bit in the first tip, but this is kind of more towards once you get the hang of the nurse, you understand her blink range, what she can go through, and whatnot. And so we're going to quickly go over that. So, what does it mean to blink smart? It means to know when and when not to blink. One thing that can make this really easy is reading the survivor's movements when you blink. For example, 9 times out of 10, if you are chasing a survivor and you blink, you're going to see them try to double back right back to you. So essentially, you're going to blink, they're going to try to come back to you. Just on the off chance you blink again, you're lost in the dust. It's a pain in the ass, but it happens all the time. But what I'm trying to tell you here, though, is if you're chasing a survivor and you got 2 blinks, or 3 blinks, whatever, and you're in mid-chase and you go ahead and use that first blink and they start doubling back, you're better off taking the stun, you know what I mean? And then if you blink again, it adds more time to the stun, and then on top of it, you can either get really lucky and you can hit them as they double back, so that way you get the hit and the stun out of the way all in one go. So let's go ahead and hop to tip number 4. Now this fourth tip is going to be very important to your success. You're going to have to learn how to read every survivor. Now this is going to kind of combo with tip number 3 like I was saying. Now most of the time survivors are going to always try to double back on you, but there are going to be times where they just won't. There are going to be times where they just keep running straight, or they run in like a really weird direction, and then you're going to have to make a very educated guess on which way they went, what they're doing, and all that. But that will come with time as you play more and more with the nurse. It's just an experience thing, but you're going to have to kind of learn and just kind of predict the pattern for each and every survivor. Another thing that survivors like to do is faking in one direction and going the complete opposite direction, so kind of like doubling back. So for example, T-walls, they will wait by the corner to see if you blink and try to cut them off. So essentially just try to blink through a wall and try to get in front of them to cut them off. Now, there's a couple different ways you can counter this. Now, for me, the best 2 ways that I can describe to you is, instead of cutting them off, what you could do is just follow them, but blink. That way they have no time to react, and you score a free hit. Now, if there is a survivor that keeps doing that, but they're just getting past you and everything, one way I like to counter it is kind of just blinking at the ground to kind of cancel your blink, and then they'll just kind of run at you, and you can score your free hit. That's just 2 different ways you can counter that type of situation, because that is a very common situation, and let me tell you guys, it is quite annoying. It can be very frustrating. Same thing. The same rule applies with pallets. If for whatever reason you guys are having trouble scoring hits, you know, when they drop pallets and all that, those 2 are really great counters. But with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into tip number 5. Alright, so this is very important, and it talks about taking risks and chances. Now, as the nurse, you will have to take a lot of chances and a lot of risks, whether it's trying to find a survivor or trying to locate them after you have hit them. Now, I know this sounds very elementary and simple, but there is a skill to this, and practice makes perfect whenever I say this. You need to follow the scratch marks and the blood on the ground as you blink. Now, I know you're like, hey, that's very simple. You do it, you know, with every killer. It's not very difficult, but mind you, they're not stunned after they perform their ability. So, essentially, you need to blink, follow the scratch marks and the blood. That way, you can gain a lot of ground on them. Now, this is really important when it comes to certain maps like any Coldwind Farm or the Haddonfield map, because survivors have a lot of places to hide, and it can be hard as hell to find them. It's just, sometimes it's just, you know, a pain in the ass. But, so for example, with the Coldwind Farm, you still need to blink so you can gain some ground. Now, what I'm saying by that is, a lot of people that play the nurse, even whenever I've played Survivor, nurses typically won't blink in the cornfield because they're scared they're going to lose you. But you still have to blink to gain ground, no matter what, because you walking around, you're going to be really slow. And then even if you find them, it's going to take a little bit to catch up to them. So you might as well blink and learn to just keep track of them. Even if you don't find them right away, you're much better off doing that. And then same thing for Haddonfield. There is a bunch of hiding places, obviously, like all the houses, you know, the little bushes, all that stuff. You still need to blink, and if, you know, they're going into a house, you can also cut them off and go ahead and score that free hit, or go ahead and down them. It's just a matter of just staying with it and just constantly blinking, and just always just blinking nonstop whenever it comes to just trying to track the survivor. It works out so much better than just walking around. Very important. It's something I wish I would have learned, especially early on whenever I was playing the nurse, and I feel a lot of people really overlook this, is People, especially when they play the nurse, don't go for short, quick blinks. Now, yes, while it is cool to, go for like the super long blink and like all that stuff, be the sniper if you will, but it is so much more better and it's so much more accurate to just get your quick blinks in, especially when you're in a chase and they're doubling back and all that stuff, just to blink once, just to, get that free hit in. It's so much easier and you have a so much higher chance of getting the hit in, and you can be so much more effective, and you're always constantly putting pressure on the survivor versus, the 2 to 3 blinks of going for the long shot. Like, yes, like I would be lying if I said I've never done that, but overall as a whole, to be super effective, I recommend that everyone just kind of sticks with the short blinks because you're going to get the guaranteed hit. You're going to apply a lot of pressure on the map. People are going to fear you. It's just going to be so much easier, and who's going to complain about a free hit? I know I'm not going to, especially with the nurse, because she's already hard as hell to play as anyways. So let's go to tip number 7, the most important tip out of the whole video. Alright, so for our 7th and last tip, at least to me, it is the most important one out of all of them. Now, it is very, very crucial that you do not give up. The nurse is definitely the most, she's the hardest killer to play, but once you get her down, she's very, very, very rewarding, and she will dominate any map and any survivor. You're probably going to struggle with her at first, like we all do. She's going to be very irritating just because she's very different. She's hard as hell to play as, and on top of it, you got to compensate, just guessing right and compensating for the stun and all that. And I know it's very frustrating, but just remember, Rome was not built in one day. It took me a while to get the hang of her, and I fucking love it. She is the greatest killer. She is unstoppable, especially in the right hand. She can go in there and dominate just anywhere at any time. Like me, I can now play as her and just dominate for the most part, mostly any map, and for the most time, any survivor. I'm not the greatest nurse player ever, but I know how to play as her, and it is fucking amazing. I am just so happy that I learned her. I hope you guys learned a lot from this guide. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys liked it, please give it a thumbs up. If you really enjoyed the content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you guys want to comment below to help others, go ahead and do so. If you want to add some more tips of your own. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.